Hey guys, welcome to another video. So today we are going to be talking about how to create your memory in Claude. So if you are an architect or a designer that finally decided, hey, I'm going to be using Claude, as I mentioned in the previous video, if you haven't seen it, please go watch it. That video is about how to generate the personal preference in Claude. So once you choose an AI, whether it's Claude or ChatGPT or Gemini, the first thing to customize the AI so it knows more about you and it can bring you better output is for it to kind of have more context from you or your company. So the two first things you need to set up is the personal preference and then the memory of the company. Now, normally it's going to start generating the memory once you start interacting with it, but why not just set it up right now and then it can build from there? So this video is going to be about how to generate the memory on Claude. And this is one of the first steps you need to do before you actually start generating your first prompt. So without wasting more of your time, let's go ahead and let me show you how to build one. So the first thing here is to generate a prompt to use the AI to actually help you generate the memory, right? In that way, you have a better, you can just do it yourself. It's just going to take a lot of more effort rather than you just let the AI at least give you a guideline or give you a draft that then you can go and edit yourself. So the first thing I'm going to do is just copy these here. So you can just stop the video right now and copy everything that I have highlighted in blue. Do not copy you don't have to copy this. So this is kind of like, here's where you will put the link of your company. So let's just go through this very quickly. So for you to set up this, I'm going to make myself a little smaller here. So for you to set up this, you need to, let's start with this. It's using Claude's guidelines. Help me create the Claude Memory profile for my company. Ask me one question at a time until you get all the information you need. You need to be 95% certain that you can complete the task at a very high level. Here's the link to the company's, you see, generating company's website. Make sure to grab all the relevant information you need. So once you have this prompt to help generate your website, your memory profile, then you go ahead and you copy paste the website or a LinkedIn or anything that you can give the Claude references on it. If you don't have any reference, that's fine. Claude will ask you more questions. That's fine. But kind of giving it like your company's website or your LinkedIn is a good start. So let's go ahead and press enter, and then let's see what we get from there. So I'm going to put myself here for a second here. Great. So now that it's thinking, it's able to generate all these questions here. So we're going to be able to kind of go through the 6 questions. Again, it's probably going to ask you 3 questions, 2 questions to you. It's just going to ask you however many questions it needs to ask for it. So let's start with the first one here. So for this, we're going to say that the entire team is going to use it because for this particular use case, the company decided to just get one license to try it. So we're going to use it there. And then once we prove that it's useful and we are actually using it and we are actually creating workflows, then we can go ahead and roll it up and create the license team. So in this case, we're going to say that the entire team is going to use it. Okay, so let's go to the next question now. And the last one will be, what conditional or sensitive information should Claude be specifically instructed to handle carefully? So here's where you will say like, hey, I want you to handle carefully information from my client or information from this and that. Also, you can do this, handle the data, of course, that is shared in your preferences, but let me answer this question here. Okay, so this one here is more about handling your personal data for the company. So I'm already kind of setting up like, hey, these kind of, if in doubt, just ask us questions before sharing data, or only make sure that the data that we've requested is shared in the specific project. So don't bring that to the main memory of the Claude. But in Claude, for instance, you have the projects where you can kind of give it its own specific memory. We'll touch that later today, but this is more like a general memory. So you don't want to be saving specific things to a project and things like that in the main memory. You want it to just keep it more broad and not specific to one single project here. So let's see what memory profile it generates. Okay, great. So now we got the results here. So on the left side, we can see on the left side, we can see what's the process it takes to generate your memory. So it kind of tells you a little bit on, hey, here is how I structure things, right? Here's some deployment options here or how you can use it. Custom instructions, single prompt. Okay, something to flag here. The confidentiality rules require the team to understand the client-specific data sharing the session stays in the session. They should not assume Claude carries it forward. Worth a brief internal note when you roll this out. Okay, so great. So once you kind of do this, generally speaking, you're going to have a document here from Claude kind of giving you the document saying like, hey, you can open it on Visual Code or you can open it in Google Drive. You can always make sure to tell Claude at the end to give you this document on PDF, on a Markdown document, or a Word document that then you can edit later. Always the best quality document is a Markdown document. That's where the agents tend to read really well, or the LLMs tend to read really well Markdown documents. However, for the sake of potentially for this specific company, what we might want to do is because we have a lot of things in Google Drive, and Google Drive, you can share the documents so people can edit. Ideally for me, I might want to just open it in Google Drive and then share with the team so we can edit it. And then later on, once the whole thing is edited, then we can publish it as a PDF or as a Markdown document that we can bring here. And then we can have that as a references. Before we do that, so here is a little bit on what we have here. And just think about it like this is a great starting point. So from here on, you will go ahead, you can copy this, put it in a notes, in a Word document, upload it to Google Drive. And the point is like you spent some time editing this, right? Because Claude is gonna give you the best estimate of what we can do as far as how to generate that. So use these as a template. And from there, you can do minor edits here. So just know that the memory, it's great, but you need to update it quarterly. Right. It's just like updating the profile of your LinkedIn account or things like that. Things change. In 3 months, your priority might be multifamily. In 6 months, you might change your BIM tool from ArchiCAD to Revit. In 6 months, maybe now you don't have the 2022 codes. Now you have only the 2025 codes. In 3-4 years from now, you might have the 2027, 2028 code. So you might need to make sure that every quarter somebody goes ahead and just goes through the document one more time, just glances it really quick and see if there's anything that needs to be updated, omitted, deleted, or just polished. If you feel like there's something that Claude is not doing properly as far as storing data, communicating properly, or things like that, you can always go back to the memory and say like, hey, this is what I want. Adjust the tone. Make sure you're always answering concise sentences. Make sure you only answer in bullet points and give me more information only when I request or things like that. So I would say stop right now the video and go ahead, do this exercise and go put this in a Word document, edit it, and then come back to this to see what's the next step. Okay, so now that you have reviewed that, now you're ready for the next step. So the next step, and I'm just going to give you a little bit of how my process is. You can always change this and use the tool of your preference. So I either normally use or I use Notes. So for this case, I'm using Notes. When you do this, when you're copying the document, you can just copy and open this and either or just put new tab or new Markdown tab. So once you have it in Markdown document, you literally do this, you do new tab, you copy paste, and it will automatically be all in Markdown here. So once you do this, then you can go ahead and edit whatever it is that you need to edit. You can share it with the team. I like to use this if it's just for myself. If you're going to be working with your team, with your company, what I would recommend is you use the Google Docs. So you can just copy paste that in a Google Doc document. And then whenever you export it, you can export it as a doc, as a Word doc. You can export it as a PDF. You can export it as a Markdown document. But the Google Doc, the doc document will allow you to have that shared document where everybody can review it and people can edit it and things like that, rather than in me, if I'm just using Notes, it's just for me. So I would recommend those two methods. So once you have that done, you normally go ahead and save as. Here you will have the option, if you're using this as a Markdown document, you can always save it just as a text, which is fine still. If you save it as a Markdown document, for instance here, normally I would save it like with this format here, which at 2026, I will normally put the date. It's kind of useful you put the date because that's the time that you are going to be, that it was updated. And then every time you update it, you can kind of change the date. So you keep a record on those things. Okay. So now that you have a file saved somewhere in your server, hopefully, now is the next step. And this is the easiest step. You just have to go and look for where to save it. So let's just go ahead. If you're here in the new chat here. So the way you will look at this, you go back to the left side of your computer and you go to where your name is or the company's name is, you will go to settings. And in settings here, you will go to capabilities. Capabilities here, you're going to have something called search for memory, right? You have this section that says memory. And here's pretty much what Claude is telling you about the memory, right? Is whether you want to search a reference chat. So allow Claude to search for relevant details in the past chats. Here is where you can click here and learn more. But really what it's doing is like every chat that you have on Claude is going to kind of get references. So again, if I'm tell ChatGPT, hey, I'm looking for places to eat, I'm looking for places to do around the city and everything, Claude is going to start predicting that anything relevant information when you need to a specific city or things like that is going to be associating that you live there or you're at least in that area. The same is with architecture. If you start asking a lot of questions about residential specifically, Claude is going to build that knowledge on residential, right? And if you ever say like, hey, I'm looking, you know, you had a conversation on a specific project a long time ago, and now you have another question on that specific project, Claude is going to bring that conversation, is going to bring that as a reference of what was talked there. So it's intelligent. Again, sometimes you don't want it to be part of the memory, but I think for the most of the part, that's a really good thing that the AI has. It has that memory. It has that back context. And I'll show you a quick trick if you don't want to make it part of your memory. But so that's one thing. And then you have the other one that says generate memory from chat history. Allow Claude to remember relevant context from your chats. This setting controls memory for both chats and projects. That's fine too. Something that I like to do here for you start with the right context already is to upload a document here. So what you can do is you can start an import here and you can bring here and copy paste something here. You can bring that document here as a markdown and that's it. And it will bring the memory right off the gate of the markdown document we had. And it will create a document here. So you just go ahead, put start import, you copy paste that here and you're done. And it will create that memory. So that's a good way from the get-go that the AI can have that background memory from you. Now, another trick, the last trick I'm going to show you, and that's it. And that's all you need to do, guys, for you to start generating your memory. I think that's a great start of you generating the context. The last trick I'm going to show you for you to not start sharing everything as far as the memory goes, but you still want to have this on, is that if you're going to have a conversation in the chat of something that is not relevant, or you think like, hey, this is more like a personal information, or this is a very sensitive information that I really want to make sure that this doesn't get stored in the memory, you can go here and go to the incognito mode here. And once you click here in the incognito mode, any question that you ask here is not going to be saved. At least that's what Claude says, right? Incognito chats aren't saved, added to the memory, or using the trained models. Learn more about, you can click on here, learn more. But that's a way that you can make sure that if there's any relevant, like if there's any sensitive data that you really want to make sure it doesn't get saved in the memory at all, then you go to the incognito mode and you can do the chats in there. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and I'll see you in the next one.